Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye coverage of the 2014 elections continues. We're entering Mr. Alan Kupsik of Lake Geneva. He's a Democrat running in the 32nd Assembly District. Mr. Kupsik, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you very much.
And a programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. So, first run for state office?
Yes, sir. It is my first run in the big leagues.
Although you hold local office now?
Yes, I do.
I'm
a alderman in the city of Lake Geneva. I represent the 2nd District. I also am the president of the City Council. I chair the Personnel Committee. I sit on the Finance Committee, the Public Works Committee, the Plan Commission, Tree Board, Park Board. I've got a variety of duties in the city of Lake Geneva.
You're no stranger to public policy decisions then?
No.
But is there any one issue or set of circumstances that caused you to run for the State Assembly today, sir?
One of the reasons that I put my hat in the ring basically was because of the fact that I don't think that we're getting the proper representation in Madison from our elected officials. We've had some issues in Lake Geneva regarding liquor licenses, economic development, tourism, and things of that nature. And when we went to Madison for help, we had very limited access. So I thought I had the experience and the background to provide a better understanding as to how to get things done and to work with the people from the 32nd District. 32nd District basically primarily depends on tourism for a lot of their economic and income. And tourism is a big thing, and again, economic development. And again, I feel that we need a better representation in that district in order to achieve those things.
When I interview local officials, local elected officials, I just like to get an overview. The effect of Act 10 on local government, has it hurt local services, Mr. Kupsik?
It hasn't hurt local services. In the city of Lake Geneva, we were very proactive when Act 10 was passed. There were a lot of questions that had to be answered that we waited on, but we moved ahead and we provided a employee handbook that would provide the employees with some type of representation, and the city was very generous in the way the handbook was set up. And it gives the employees a little better relationship with the city. We set up a variety of rules and regulations that we thought were beneficial to not only the city but the employees. Act 10 was definitely a difficult. It was difficult to get through, but we did it, and I think we were proactive, and I think it worked out to everyone's benefit.
A central issue in the next session, of course, is going to be funding of schools. What are your thoughts on that, sir? Well,
the funding of schools came to me as kind of a surprise when I was doing some research. I wasn't aware of the fact that Wisconsin was rated in the top 10 as far as educational cuts go, funding cuts. And from 2008 to 2013, they had cut over 15% of the budget for education. Personally, I find it hard to believe that we would take away from our children and take away from their educational system in order to balance a budget. As a state representative, I would try to do everything possible to get that funding back and to provide an education that all the children in Wisconsin are entitled to without teacher shortages and without funding that restricts them from getting a good education.
And a big issue also is going to be the future of school choice and vouchers. Your position on those, sir?
Well, I didn't have a lot of experience with that, but I did have an opportunity to speak to a couple of teachers who teach in the public schools as well as the private schools. And from what I read, like any other issue, vouchers have their pros and cons. My biggest understanding is that the vouchers take away from the public school system. And that is something that Wisconsin, being a middle-class state, public schools are important, and everyone should have an opportunity to go to school depending on what their income is or where they stand as far as social standards are. In this case, I know that Milwaukee and Racine have already established a voucher system, right, that they, according to what I read, they claim that it works, and it gives the people an opportunity to choose, between a public school and a private school. It is less expensive. A voucher is less expensive than typically what the state would pay to send a student to a public school. But again, there's pros and cons, and I feel that I need to do a lot more research on it in order to understand it a lot better. But just based on what I have heard, the fact that it does take away from the funding of the public schools definitely kind of opens my ears to the fact that I need to look at it and continue to do research on it and weigh out the pros and cons as to how it works.
And Governor Walker, as you know, recently called for the repeal of Common Core educational standards. Yes. Do you have a position on that?
I do have a position on that. Again, that's another voucher system that was set up in Racine and but the Common Core, they have that already in place in Milwaukee and in Racine. And from what I read, the whole purpose of that is to educate our children so that they can move on into the future as far as their college and somewhat get a feel for what the real world is like. Mm-hmm. Governor Walker wants to create his own set of core values based on the input from people that live here in Wisconsin. Now, whether or not he's referring to teachers in particular or the general public, I'm not 100% sure how he plans to structure that. But I would be in favor of listening to what his plan would be in order to implement that. And hopefully it would be to the benefit of again, to the children that are attending school.
You said the 32nd District relies on tourism. Tourism, of course, is dependent on highways and roads.
Yes.
So I want to talk about transportation funding. The
Yes.
Taxpayer Alliance has said if you fund transportation at the 2013 levels for the next 10 years, we're going to be $2 billion short. Do you think there's a deficit? And if so, how would you make it up, Mr. Kupsik?
The deficit, I understand, in the transportation. Well, one of the things that I did do research on was the fact that the state is behind in their transportation, funding their transportation. They have not raised gas prices. They have not done anything since, I believe it was back in 2008 or 2009. I'm not exactly sure when that was, but they will at some point over a period of time, going into the 2017 budget, they're projecting a $680 million shortfall. Yes. Now, some of the things that I would recommend, and I agree with as far as a report that I read, is that the Wisconsin DOT would like to raise the gas tax 5 cents. They want a 73% rise in annual registration fee for commercial vehicles. They're looking for a $20 to $54 increase in 8-year driver's license fees. They're looking for the elimination of the sales tax exemption on the trade-in value of a vehicle, and they're also looking for the adoption of the mileage-based registration fee system.
Those are some options, yes.
Those are options, yes. And I guess those are things that we would have to look at as a state representative as to whether or not they could close that shortfall, and whether or not they would be beneficial to the people of Wisconsin.
You'd be willing to consider all those options?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes.
Okay.
Especially when you look back at the history, and because of the fact that the tax on gasoline and everything. As a matter of fact, here, as I look at my notes, I noticed that it's been 2006 was the last time that the gas price or the taxes on gas have been raised.
The gas tax,
that's a long time. And you know, you run into a situation where if you wait too long, a taxpayer will take a small increase, but when you come back to a taxpayer and you ask them for a larger increase because of the fact that you weren't doing your due diligence as far as raising it, you know, in smaller increments during the course of the time, it's hard to get that money. But these are all issues that I would definitely consider.
Question on health care. You know, 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents gets their health care through our Medicaid program. The American Hospital Association says Wisconsin's reimbursement rates are the second lowest in the nation. Is it time to raise those reimbursement rates?
I believe it is time, and I believe it's time that the Wisconsin takes advantage of the Affordable Care Act. For some reason, Governor Walker is kind of reluctant to tap into that federal fund based on his past experience or his reluctance to do that because of the fact he's afraid that it could be taken away at any time.
He doesn't think the feds are going to be good for it.
Yes, basically, which I was kind of surprised to read, but as it turns out, that's exactly what he's looking at. And I think it's safe to say that the Affordable Care Act is funded, and I'm sure it will be funded, especially with Obamacare in place and whatnot. And I think that it would be wise for the state of Wisconsin to consider and the additional money that we would get, and I believe that it would save the taxpayers considerably. Now, there's some recommendations: maintain current eligibility standards and services provided by Medicaid. That's definitely something we would like to keep. And unfortunately, the budget proposes lowering Badger Care income eligibility at almost 100%. So those are all things that have to be considered. And again, we have to look out for the welfare of the taxpayers. And I think we should give them what they deserve and take advantage of the Affordable Care Act.
There's going to be a bill introduced next session, the legalization of medical marijuana. And your position on that and traveling with that is the issue of legalizing the recreational use of marijuana.
Well, right out, I'm not in favor of recreational marijuana. I think we have enough vices and things out there that cause additional problems without adding another one to it.
Okay.
Medical marijuana, definitely something to consider. I feel that disabled people, cancer victim or cancer patients, those people should be entitled to the latest and popular forms of medication to ease their pain and to help them live a better life. And I think if the medical marijuana is controlled and it's set up properly, I think it could be beneficial to everyone.
Okay. And do you think first offense drunken driving should be a crime, Mr. Kupsik? That's a tough one. I guess my thought on that is the situation. If for some reason you happen to drive home from your local watering establishment and you get pulled over by the police and they convict you or they're concerned that you're driving under the influence, I wouldn't consider that a major crime. A ticket, a violation, however they word that, but I wouldn't consider that a crime. But in a situation where there is an accident, where there could be bodily injury or death, that would be something that I would definitely consider a crime. I guess we have to leave it up to our legal system to decide one way or the other how that would go. I'm not in favor of passing a bill that would make the first offense a crime based on the situation. Okay. I want to give you a chance then to outline any differences between you and your opponent on November 4, Representative Tyler August.
some differences.
Yes, on issues or
Well,
approaches?
Well, one of the things that I consider myself a people person, and I'm opening to listening and learning, and trying to get the as much information as I can to help out the constituents of our particular district. We have in the past have reached out to our incumbent, and we're not able to get the satisfaction that we thought would be necessary to help us out. We had gone to him regarding liquor licenses. We had gone to him regarding room taxes. We had gone to him regarding tourism, economic development, and for some reason didn't get the response that I felt was necessary. The 32nd district is if you look on a map, it's a spread out district, but most of it is farms, and the concentration lies within Lake Geneva, Geneva Township, Delavan, Genoa City, and East Troy, and then there's a small portion in Kenosha County called Wheatland. And these are all little towns that are towns and villages and cities that suffer economic development. And they could use a hand. They could use some support from Madison regarding tourism, regarding economic development, bringing businesses and jobs back to this area. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen a decline in jobs. We've seen a decline in businesses. We've seen a decline in economic development. And we just don't seem to get that kind of representation from our representative. And I feel that I have the knowledge and I have the background and the experience to move forward with that and help the small cities and towns and villages to work towards bringing businesses back and bringing jobs back to the area so that we can all live comfortably and hopefully have offer a better lifestyle.
Thank you. Alan Kupsik of Lake Geneva is the Democratic candidate in the 32nd Assembly District. The election is November 4th. Alan, thanks for visiting with Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.